Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's SYA School Year Abroad informational session. My name is Julia Shire. I was in SYA Italy in 2006 to 2007, currently in Vermont. I'm really thrilled to be hosting tonight's informational session along with some more recent alumni from our campuses. If folks have questions while they're watching, feel free to type into the chat. We'll definitely leave time at the end to go through questions that have been submitted previously and anything that you add in the chat, so don't hesitate. I'd like to welcome our alumni that are here tonight to offer some brief introductions. Let's start with Harriet and then go to Isabelle.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Harriet. J'étais une élève à SYA France, donc j'ai étudié à Rennes. Je viens de New York et je suis élève à Friends Seminary. Et maintenant, je suis une élève encore et je joue le tennis et aussi je suis un membre de notre club environnemental. So hi, my name's Harriet. I studied in SYA France in Rennes. I'm from New York City and I go to Friends Seminary. And right now I'm a senior and I'm a member of our environmental club and also I play tennis.
Buongiorno, mi chiamo Isabel, ho studiato a Viterbo a SYA Italia, vengo da Manhattan Beach a California, vado alla scuola di Chadwick in Palos Verdes, gioco calcio e pallavoli, mi piace cucinare e leggere e amo viaggiare. So my name's Isabel. I went to SYA Italy in Viterbo. I go to Chadwick School in California in Palos Verdes. I play soccer and volleyball, and I like to read and cook and travel.
Great, perfect. And then let's hear from Ian and then Elenia.
Hola, muy buenas a todos vosotros que me estéis escuchando. Me llamo Ian y durante el último año yo vivía en Zaragoza, España. Me lo paso súper bien. Fue un año absolutamente enriquecedor que me abrió los ojos un montón. Hello everyone, my name is Ian. I live in New York and last year I was living in Zaragoza, Spain. I just said that it was a beautiful experience that really opened my eyes and was a wonderful time.
Hola a todos, me llamo Ilenia, soy de Napa, California, donde asisto a Vintage High School. Como Ian también estudié el año pasado en Zaragoza, España, y esta semana estoy en San Diego con unos amigos de SYA. Hi everyone, my name is Ilenia. I'm from Napa, California. Like Ian, I also studied in Zaragoza, Spain last year for my junior year. And this week for Thanksgiving break, I'm in San Diego with some friends from SYA.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. I'm going to go ahead and share a short presentation, and then we'll get into some more, hearing from some more alums about their experiences. Let me go ahead and share. Great, so welcome again tonight. As we all know, the past few years have been defined by our homes and staying close to home. But at SYA, we hope that you'll consider making the world your home for either a year or a semester through studying at School Year Abroad, or SYA. With campuses in France, Italy, and Spain, SYA will give you the opportunity to step out of your comfort zone, gain independence, and put your textbooks into context. SYA is here to turn your learning journey into one that's focused on real-life experiences and adventures at one of our 3 European campuses. And I'll note that for our Spain and France campuses, we require 2 years of high school Spanish or French, or the equivalent. And for our Italy campus, we don't require Italian, but we do require you to have 2 years of any language at the high school level or equivalent. We're happy to answer any questions about that. But instead of telling you more about this opportunity, let us show you.
Every will be an adventure. The risks, the rewards, they're all included.
This entire year has just been about things being based on where we are or where we are going with the school next. You learn about something and then you get to experience it. That makes classes a lot more engaging, knowing that we're going to see the things that we're studying.
You really feel the gravity of the things that you learn out of your textbook rather than just hearing about them and memorizing some flashcards. I think it's the difference between memorization and understanding.
It's not just schoolwork, it's actual practical experience that you can't really get anywhere else.
What SYA does best is make students comfortable being uncomfortable. You really start to embrace the idea of being uncomfortable.
I don't think any other program could really give you this experience. They're willing to throw their students into these situations, trust that we'll be okay, and in the end we are okay, and I think that we take so much away from it just because SY is willing to give us that trust and freedom.
So the Capstone project is the culminating end-of-year project for all SYA students. It's very much grounded in the fact that we are in Spain, and the goal of the project is to take best advantage of the resources that are around us.
I think that I've been able to get through the surface level of my experience here, not only with the land, but with the people. And I think that the longer that you're here, the deeper beneath the surface you can really get.
My host family, they are the cutest people I have ever met. I can leave Italy saying, I'm part Italian now. I am part of their family and they love me and I love them. The relationships that I've created with them, that's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life.
My friends have been a big part of this experience because I've been able to find a really good group of people who are just as adventurous as I am. I'm very glad I did SYA. It has opened my horizons to travel and being more independent.
I know it can be sort of scary thinking, oh, 9 months in a foreign country. It flies by so fast and it's so fun. It's an experience that I feel so fortunate to have been involved in. It's not something that a lot of people get to do, so if you have the opportunity, please do it.
For anyone who's on the fence about going to SYA or even applying, the fact that you're even thinking about it probably means that you're somebody who should be here.
Great. So at SYA, you'll live with a personally matched host family, fully immerse yourself in the local culture, and as you saw from the video, feel truly at home living abroad. You'll be part of a small student body composed of sophomores, juniors, and seniors from high schools across the US, just like yours. And for those of you who might feel intimidated by the language element to our program, we want to assure you that a wide variety of language learners excel at SYA due to our fully immersive program. Our hands-on fieldwork-based curriculum will challenge you to think creatively and critically while fulfilling graduation requirements at home. You'll venture outside the classroom and learn by exploring the culture around you. And as you uncover the connections between your coursework and your environment, you'll be challenged to take your education into your own hands. You'll be amazed at the self-reliance you build when you travel throughout your host country and design your own capstone project. And with the assistance of our extracurricular coordinators, you'll also be given many chances to contribute to the local community through artistic, musical, athletic, and service-oriented opportunities. At each step of your adventure abroad, you'll be guided by dedicated local and American faculty who will serve as your teachers, advisors, and college counselors. In addition to traditional college advising and the ability to take standardized tests, SYA students find their voice overseas. The independence, self-awareness, and confidence you'll gain living abroad will help you to stand out to colleges that best meet your interests. In presenting yourself to colleges as an SYA student, you'll have a distinct story to tell, and you'll demonstrate the grit and ambition it takes to live in a different country and learn a new language. Just look at the schools most frequently attended by SYA students in the past 5 years. At SYA, we also believe that financial need should not discourage any student from the adventure of understanding a new culture. Nearly half of SYA students receive need-based financial aid or merit-based scholarships. It has been a long past few years, so no better time than now to step out into the world, learn through experience and exploration, and embrace a global perspective. We invite you to seize this new opportunity to immerse yourself in a new language and culture and broaden your world by making an incredible place like Rennes, Viterbo, or Zaragoza your home. Want to learn more? Scan the QR code and complete the form to receive updates, or visit us at sya.org/admissions, and feel free to follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, etc. Our campus influencers are creating content weekly. Perfect. So now we're going to invite our alums to come back in to fill in the gaps a little bit of some questions that folks might have. We're going to start with a few that we have queued up. So we'd love to hear about, your favorite class. What did you enjoy about some of the academic experiences? Let's start with Harriet and then go to Elenia.
Yeah, so my favorite class was art history. It was taught by a really engaging teacher. I found every class to be really fun. It was all about French art, and it also incorporated architecture, and also there were a few art projects of our own that we were able to do. So it was really a mixture of various aspects related to art history. And I really loved how it was fully based on Rennes, and it was very experiential in that way. Anytime that we were visiting a museum on field work or school trips, I would see something that we'd seen in the class, and I'd be able to talk about it in French, which was crazy. And so it was a really great class, and I really loved the teacher, as I said, and it was just really great.
At SYA in Spain, I had the opportunity to take a civilization and cultures class based on Spain. And it's taught by this amazing teacher named Alvaro, who is insanely intelligent, has written multiple books, and a wonderful teacher. The class basically it's a history of Spain. And what I found most engaging about the class is that you're able to take what you learn in the class and apply it to your experiences living in the country. I remember the class involved a fair amount of field work, which I think will be talked about a bit later. But yeah, I really enjoyed how you could mix your environment with what you were learning in class and apply what you were learning to this experience.
Perfect. Great. Definitely an opportunity that you cannot do in the States. We'd love to also hear about, extracurricular activities and kind of what you did outside of the school day. Let's start with Isabel and then go to Elenia.
So I went to SYA Italy, and there's so many extracurriculars that you can do. I tried to do as many as I could, and still there are some that I wish I still had done. But I played soccer, and there wasn't a girls' soccer team that was available for my host family to drive me to. So I ended up practicing with a boys' soccer team, and the coach had been a former host family. He had been a former host dad, and so I played with my other friend from SYA Italy. I also took a ceramics class, which I had never done before, which I loved, and it gave me the opportunity to do something that was new to me, but also was very important to the culture and specifically the area we were in. It was an Etruscan medieval city, so we learned about Etruscan ceramics. And then I also was able to do this SYA internship thing that they call SYA Law, and a host dad, Alfredo, taught it, and he had a law firm within the city. So every Friday, once a week, we went there, and he taught us about different cases that he had, and we discussed them in Italian and in English towards the beginning of the year when we were still learning the language. And it was just really awesome because I got to learn about some of the difficulties and troubles and cases that he had going on and was working with.
So in Zaragoza, Spain, like Isabel, I went in with the idea that I would try as much as I could, which I'm very happy that I did. I'm a dancer, so I took a lot of dance classes. I tried out rowing because I'm tall, and I've always been told that if I'm tall, I'd be good at rowing. Found out I don't like sports outdoors, so resorted to continue dancing more often. also, like Isabel, I started taking a ceramics class with this wonderful woman named Yanka. And then I worked at a local daycare down the street from my host family's house. And I taught, not taught, but I played with and interacted with kids 0 to 3 years old in the afternoons. And I think that these extracurricular activities was such an important part of my study abroad experience because yes, you can go to school, but when you're actually out there interacting with the greater community, you're speaking the language, you're hearing about these people and their lives and their experiences. You're learning so much more about the country than you can just through taking academic classes.
Definitely. Great. Perfect. And then we'd also love to hear about your favorite trip going on excursions, whether for the day or for longer, is a really important part of the SYA experience. Let's hear from Harriet and then Isabel.
So my favorite trip was to Montpellier, which is in the south of France. I'd never been to the south of France before, so I was super excited. It was also April, so in Rennes it was slightly colder, and so it was great to get a little sunny escape for a week with the school. It was really a mixture of free time and also scheduled trips to museums, and we traveled by bus to many little towns in the south surrounding Montpellier, including Sète, Nîmes, and Aigues-Mortes. So it was really great to even just drive through the countryside and then stop at a town and go to a museum or see a coliseum, and then go to other museums and also be able to see art that you talk about in your class, kind of as I mentioned earlier. That's why it really emphasizes experiential learning, and I think these trips really were a great part of that. You were going out and you were seeing things, and you were going to different regions of the country and learning about them. So on this trip, it was a great view of a different part of the country in the south, and it was some really great food too, so that was really fun.
Perfect. Thank you.
My favorite trip during the year was probably our trip to Sicily. That was during the spring semester, and we went as a school, and it was a 10-day trip, so it was the longest trip I did the entire year, and it was just so amazing. We spent 5 days in Palermo and 5 days in Catania, and we did, like Harriet did as well, we did different day trips all throughout Sicily, and a lot of them were by bus or train. And also similar to Harriet, we visited a bunch of different art sites, and I took an art history class at SYA Italy, so we had a long-term project throughout the trip where we learned about, visited, and filmed at different archaeological sites and visiting different art pieces. And then also I did an experiential Italian class. So one of the things about Sicily is there's just so much culture there, which I loved so much because so many groups of people have lived there over time. So it really was completely different from the rest of Italy, and our experiential Italian class really utilized that in some of our assignments. And we just did a lot of traveling within that trip to small towns, and it really just exercised our independence and our skills of just being independent and navigating our surroundings and using our language skills.
Great. Definitely such a huge component of SYA, even if they're short. They're some of the best memories of the year. So we'd love to move on to host families and hear a little bit about, your experience with your host family or a favorite memory. This is often what potential applicants are maybe most nervous about. So we'd love to hear from Alenia and then Isabel.
Yeah, I lived with this wonderful woman named Isabel and her 2 kids, Juan and Julia. And I think the host family experience is the most special part of SYA because it's your chance to truly connect and become a part of the Spanish culture. And I mean, you make a second family for life. I'm going to see them next summer. One of my favorite memories with them, they had their extended family lived in a tiny little pueblo, like an hour away from the city up in the Pyrenees Mountains. And I have so many memories of spending weekends there. There would probably be 20 people all all extended family in this tiny, tiny little room. They'd bring in extra chairs and tables from I don't know where, and we'd cook lunch and set it out on the table and just sit and eat for 4 or 5 hours, and just talk. And it was just a large family who had all like lived their lives together and were so incredibly Spanish and who welcomed me with open arms. And their spending time with them felt like the most precious part of my experience in SYA.
I completely agree with you. I think the host family experience at SYA is one of the things that makes SYA completely worth it for me. I don't know what my experience would have looked like with a different host family. I just think my host family was so completely right for me. I had a host sister who is 17, Julia, and I have a host sister and she's 21, Georgia. And for me, having them there was probably one of the things that made it extra special because having girls near my age, they just helped me so much because I was able to go out with them and spend extra time in the city and meet their friends, and they helped me learn the language, and we just connected so well. And then my host parents were just the most incredible people, and they had hosted, I think, 8 students before me, so they just completely knew what to do. And if I was really struggling or if I was stuck on work or like feeling behind in Italian, they were just always there for me and completely understood what to do to help me. And they knew what I needed to do to be able to get the most out of the SYA experience, and they would tell me. And also, I don't know, I just think they're like people who made my experience so unique. And even if I went back and if I had the opportunity to do it again, it would not be the same and it would be missing that key factor because you just, over the course of the year, you develop such an important and special bond with them. And I still talk with my host family. I WhatsApp them and I call them, and I know they're hosting a new student now, but they still make me feel like family. And I don't know what it would have been like without them. So.
Great. Perfect. Ian, do you want to add anything on?
Yeah, for sure. Just to echo what has been said previously, I think it makes sense that you'll have very amazing bonds and friends in the classroom and with fellow Americans who are in the program. But more than anything else, I think for sure the most sacred time and special, and what I think really helps you skyrocket your communication and language skills and abilities is definitely the host family. I have like numerous stories I could tell and take way too much time, but I can just speak on a few here. So with my host family in Zaragoza, Spain, there's a sushi buffet. So we made that kind of like a weekly ritual where we would go there and you pay upfront, I don't remember, like certain amount of euros, and then you can literally eat all you want, all you can eat buffet, and you get taxed on what you don't eat. So we like made a whole game out of it. It was really fun. It was a beautiful time. We'd go a lot. Another time, my host family and we all went to the mall. We were just looking for shoes for my host brother Diego. And then all next thing I know, my host mom is in like a little puppy store, and she says, "All right, we're gonna get this one. What should we name it? Iancito." So she named like this little puppy Iancito, and then we brought it home, and we all loved that dog, and it was an amazing time. And yeah, just really to wrap it all up, you'll have hard days, you'll have great days, but at the end of the day, if you just come home, you have dos besos, like from the host family, you're feeling good, like they really nurture you. And what my host mother said to me that really resonated and hit home was, I was having some troubles with the language. I was not feeling like all that confident in myself. And she said, "All right, Ian, you're just trying, and that is what matters. That's what you're here to do." Just that that support system really made all the difference for me.
Great. Thanks so much. Yeah, as you can see, the host families are such a pivotal part of the experience, everything from, traveling and celebrating holidays to just like the normal things of grocery shopping or like cleaning the house just becomes, a really special time to bond with your host family and see what life is truly like in another country in exciting times and normal days. And it's much more than being a tourist. Great. Let us move on to fieldwork activities. I know that somebody mentioned the really experiential part of the curriculum. We'd love to hear about a favorite fieldwork activity. What did you do and learn? Let's hear from Isabel.
My favorite fieldwork activity probably was one we did pretty soon after getting to Italy. I think it was the second or third fieldwork we had. So every Wednesday we have a school day that's not normal, and we had an assignment, and normally we would get them ahead of time, either the Monday or Tuesday of that week. But this specific day, it was a surprise. So they told us that they were going to tell us upon getting to school that Wednesday morning. So we arrived at school and they had divided us into groups, and we picked names of cities out of a hat, and we had our city, we had our group, and then they gave us a hard copy of a map, and they told us to find a way to get there and then get back, and they gave us a time period of when we had to get back, and they told us not to ask our host families for help on navigating either like the train system or the bus system. We had to figure it out and ask people for help on our own, and they'd informed the host families not to assist us, but if we really needed help, they would have. But basically the entire part of it was just to try and see if we could figure out the navigation and really ask for help. And we had been studying directions in our experiential Italian class, so that gave us the opportunity to use our language skills we had been working on. And it was also really close to the start of the year, so we hadn't really, we knew each other, but we didn't know absolutely everyone because we had only spent time with certain people up until that point. So there were a couple of people who on that day, when I was randomly assigned to their group, I got to know them a lot better. And it was just such a kind of chaotic but really fun experience. And it really helped us get close together as a class, and also just feel so much more confident going into the year, knowing that we could travel and do it on our own, and that there was nothing that was going to go wrong because we had support systems if we needed it, but we were also completely capable.
Great. Perfect. Yeah, I think that's a great example of the balance that SYA offers, of definitely supporting and offering a lot of support systems, but also encouraging you to gain your independence and problem solve on your own and ask for help. And it's a really wonderful balance that they provide, both in orientation and getting adjusted, but also at different points during the year. So we'd love to hear about like a typical day at school. What was the normal kind of routine, community, friends, teachers? Let's hear from Elenia.
Yeah. I think one of the wonderful things about SYA is that each student's day is incredibly unique to them and what they enjoy doing. I know for me, I would have school from 7 till 4. I'd probably have 4 classes each day, and in the breaks between each class, at the SY campus in Zaragoza, it was an open campus, so I could leave the school and go study in the library or a cafe or go sit in a park, which was very different from my home school, and a really wonderful opportunity to explore the city during school hours. After school, I would have my extracurricular activities, so I would go to dance, or I'd go to ceramics class or to the daycare. Zaragoza has a wonderful public transportation system, which I love to ride. I found that it was a really fun way to kind of gauge my level of Spanish, depending on how well I could eavesdrop on the local people in tranvia. And then after class, I would head home and do homework, and then that night I'd have my dinner with my host family, which in Spain, Meal times are a big deal. They bring the family together. Everyone sits for 2 or 3 hours just talking, even on a school night. So I think during dinner time was when I learned the majority of my Spanish, because it would just be hours of sitting and talking and listening in Spanish about anything. We talked about politics, about our days, about what we're going to do this weekend. And yeah, the days really just were what I wanted them to be. Each student could really curate it to what they were interested in doing and their personal goals at SYA. And it was just such a magical time looking back.
Great. Yeah, I think one of the wonderful things about SYA is that it is a challenging curriculum and school year, and you certainly, have difficult classes and homework and projects, but they also really understand that, as you were speaking to, just having the flexibility to be at a 3-hour dinner on a school night and really practice your language or learn more about the culture and customs is just as important as doing homework. So they try to offer a good balance of doing what you need to do for school, but also understanding that the learning is much more than just the classes. Perfect. Would love to hear what made you want to apply to SYA. Let's hear from Ian and then Harriet.
Yeah, so I think for me, I've been surrounded by Spanish speakers my whole life, and similar to what Elenia said, like not that I wanted to eavesdrop, but I wanted to be connected. I wanted to make relationships and bonds with people who I thought I could become friends with, family with, love. And I think that was really the driving factor that led me to apply and then spend 9 months in Spain my junior year. And also, I had a neighbor who lives close to where I live in New York who had gone 2 years prior. Between when I went and he went, COVID unfortunately happened, but he really just spoke about the program, and he painted a picture that was exactly what it was, and it just there couldn't have been something I wanted to do more than this. Like, go embark on like a new journey, have a clean slate, meet new kids, meet new teachers, a new environment, and really just have support while doing so. And I think that's exactly what you get when you go to SYA. Everyone, for the most part, wants to be there and wants to engage and connect. And you do definitely leave learning and knowing a considerable amount of Spanish, of the prospective language that you do study, and just so valuable. Today, I went to the barber. I just got a fresh haircut, and I was using those skills today. Like, really important to keep them up, and you do learn the language.
Yeah, kind of similar to Ian. I have some French-speaking family, including my 2-year-old cousin, who before I left was better at French than me. So that was something that I wanted to be able to do. I wanted to be able to talk with him, and with the rest of my family. And I had moved to New York in 2018, and prior to that, I'd taken French. But coming into my school, I found the French really rigorous, and so I really worked hard in 8th grade to kind of solidify my knowledge, and then I found a love for the language. And so I found that SYA was the best way to experientially push myself to fully master the language, which eventually it did. It's hard to be there in person and be surrounded by everyone speaking French so fast, but it was really great, and it really helped me improve my fluency. And the fact that I'd be able to be in a country that speaks the language that I wanted to learn is very unique and unlike anything else.
Perfect. Great. Would love to hear briefly about your capstone projects. That's also often a question that prospective applicants are interested in. Let's hear from Elenia and then Harriet about what your project was. Maybe briefly explain what capstone is.
Yeah, so the Capstone project at SYA is a kind of self-guided, self-created research project that each student embarks on second semester. And the only requirement is that it be place-based, so it has to pertain to something that can be researched and found in the place you're learning. I had so much fun with this project. I decided to research the historical socioeconomic factors why that influenced women who have become nuns in Spain. It proved how well I had improved in my Spanish over the course of the first semester, because I reached out to the university in Zaragoza, and I was lucky enough to be able to speak with, I think, 6 or 7 professors about the topic, and read books in Spanish about the topic. And I went to the local cloistered convent and spoke with the head nun there. And it was incredible using my environment and using this language that I had just learned to complete a full research project on a subject that really interested me. And then at the end of the year, each student presented their research to the class in the language in Spanish. And I think it's a great way to end the year demonstrating how much you have learned in Spanish and how much you have interacted with your community. And I just thought it was super, super fun.
Yeah, so my project, I was lucky enough to be in France during the presidential election. And so that was a huge conversation starter. Anywhere I was, there were all these posters all around. And I was also inspired by my politics class, where we were talking about the election, and also in politics club. And so I was inspired to see how different political groups were preparing for the election, specifically in Rennes. So I was lucky enough to talk with 4 representatives from La République En Marche, Les Républicains, and Les Verts. So those are 3 parties in France. I was able to speak with 4 representatives situated in Rennes about how specifically they were preparing for the election. And I was able to go to the voting booth with my host parents as they voted, kind of make observations about what was different there compared to in the US. And my final presentation was kind of presenting everything that I'd seen and talked about with the different representatives. And by then the election had finished. So it was a really great way to kind of watch it happen in real time and learn about how different politics systems work in a different country.
Perfect. Great. We are winding down our time, so we're going to transition to some of the pre-submitted questions. For anyone who's listening live, feel free to ask any other questions in the comments in the chat bar. But one of the first questions was about scholarships available. So there are 5 different scholarships that SYA offers. That's in addition to financial aid. And you can find all of the information online. There's different eligibility requirements and amounts, and all the timing for applying for that is on there. And please reach out to the admissions team if you have any questions at all about either the scholarships or the financial aid process. We had a question about what the average class size was. Would love to hear from alums of what was your average class size?
Yeah, so I can jump in. In terms of, so in Spain, you have people who are students spending the whole year there, and then also just first semester and then solely second semester. I would say we were around 60 to 70 students in total. And then of the kids who were only first semester, I think, so you have the whole group, and then about 10 or 12 kids leave first semester, and then another 10 or 12 jump back in for the second semester.
And I think in the actual classroom, I had maximum probably 15 kids in one class, but they tended to be fairly small, and which really help facilitate a lot of dialogue.
Perfect. Great. We had a question about, are uniforms required? And they're not required. In my experience, we got a little bit of information about if there was any particular, not dress code, but just expectations. Like in Italy, we often would, wear slippers in the house. You wouldn't go barefoot. So they gave us a little reminder as we were packing over the summer of like, make sure you bring some slippers. Anyone want to comment on kind of uniforms or expectations around dress?
Kind of like you said, the slippers thing is true, but also some of the families, it kind of depends on the family, but some of them are more conservative. So when you're packing, they just kind of send out something saying just be mindful. And when you get there, you want to make sure you're completely comfortable leaving the house and like wearing certain things in front of your host family and just be aware of that cultural difference. And they might be in a more conservative town or just have different views depending, especially on religion, because a lot of the families in the city I was in were religious, but there's no specific dress code. They just want to make sure you're aware of that cultural difference and barrier.
Definitely. Perfect. Yeah, I think that one of the other important things to remember as you're thinking about becoming an SYA student is that you are also a representative of the United States and, you know, your American family and your home school. And so just kind of being aware of how you're presenting yourself is really important in all aspects of what you do. So it's a great point. We had a question about what sports were available. A few folks touched on this, including an unsuccessful rowing experience. But any other sports that were available, or was anyone interested in speaking about kind of how sports were organized in your town?
Yeah, so part of being an SYA student is having an extracurricular. So a large number of my SYA France class were either participating on tennis or soccer. I was taking Pilates classes at a local gym in French. And so there are a lot of options. SYA doesn't have a specific soccer team, for example, but there are so many opportunities to engage in that while abroad. And it's also a great way to learn, you know, soccer vocabulary in French and to make new friends.
So during my time in Spain, I think more towards the end of the year, I was out there representing America on the Mira Bueno football team. Very competitive, you know. I think people were very welcoming, but soccer is, as we know, like very valued and played sport in Spain. But besides soccer or football, what I was doing with my free time was also, I think Alenia also was there. We were boxing in a local gym and just getting access and exposure to the community and natives and being immersed in the dialogue.
Yeah, there's an activities person at SYA, I'm pretty sure on each campus, and if you go to them and say, I want to do this, like they will find some way to make sure you can participate in that, and they give you a list of examples at the beginning to maybe like spark any ideas if you're wanting to try anything new, but they're really helpful and it's not just all on you to figure out what you can participate in. Like there are so many different resources that are available to you.
Great. Perfect. And then I think this is our last question about host families and kind of how are they assigned or how are you matched with a host family?
So prior to going to France, I filled out a form. It was quite long. I had lots of questions just to make sure it was specifically relevant to you, about siblings, parents, if you wanted a single parent, if you would like younger siblings or older siblings. And then there were also questions about dietary restrictions. So whether you're vegetarian or vegan or you're allergic to something in particular, they make sure that matches up with your host family. And host families are very willing to cater to that in my experience. And yeah, generally it was a great placement system.
Perfect. Yeah, so there are host family coordinators at each of the campuses, and many of the host families, I think Isabel had mentioned, you know, have been hosting for many, many years. They kind of know the ropes and the ups and downs of the year, all the rules and regulations. Most host families are found by word of mouth, so they have a friend or a neighbor that has hosted and they've gotten interested and signed up. The host families are vetted. There's visits to their homes to get to know the family, the setup, how far they might be from the school, kind of all of the details around the host families, you know, interests, safety, all of that. And then as Harriet was mentioning, they offer a kind of an interview form, if you will, to show any preferences, what is important to you, and then you're personally matched to the host families for kind of what is going to be the best situation for you, and they do their best to match any requests that you have. So it's a very personal experience. The host family coordinator is available at any point in the year. If you're having any trouble or miscommunications or anything, they're available to also help. But as we've seen from our alums, the host family experience is usually one of the best that folks just rave about and feel like they're, scooped right into their new household and really taken care of by their families. I think that is bringing us to the end of our time. So thank you again, alums, so much for taking time out of your evening to join. For those watching, we really encourage you to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all about applying. And thank you again to everyone for joining, and we hope to see your application soon.